You check your bank account on a Saturday morning and you feel that familiar knot in your stomach, even though you have money in there, even though nothing is overdrawn. There's this low level panic that never fully goes away. You see a number like $3,000, and instead of feeling secure, you immediately think about all the ways it could disappear: the car repair, the medical bill, the rent increase. Your brain refuses to let you feel safe ever. You are not broken, you are conditioned. And today I want to show you the 7 psychological programs that were installed in your brain, programs designed to keep you broke. Not by accident, but by design. Most people think poverty is about numbers, how much you earn, how much you save. But neuroscience shows us something different. Poverty is a mental state that can persist long after your bank account changes. You can make 6 figures and still operate from scarcity. You can have savings and still feel like you are one mistake away from homelessness because the program is running in the background. Let's start with the first sign: the money anxiety paralysis. Here's what it looks like. You need to make a financial decision. Maybe it is investing. Maybe it is starting a business. Maybe it is just buying something you actually need and you freeze. You research obsessively. You create spreadsheets. You ask everyone for advice, but you never actually decide. The fear of making the wrong choice is so overwhelming that you make no choice at all, and this paralysis costs you. You miss opportunities. You stay in bad situations longer than you should. You watch others move forward while you stay stuck. This is not laziness. This is not stupidity. This is a conditioned response. Psychologists call this scarcity mindset. When you grow up with financial instability, your brain learns that every decision is high stakes, because it was. When your family had $300 to last 2 weeks, spending $50 on the wrong thing could mean going hungry. So your brain built a survival mechanism. Extreme caution around money. The problem is that mechanism does not turn off when your circumstances improve. Even when you have more resources, your brain still treats every financial decision like life or death. Studies from Princeton and Harvard show that scarcity actually changes how your brain processes information. It narrows your focus. It reduces your cognitive bandwidth by up to 13 IQ points, the equivalent of pulling an all-nighter, except you're always running on that deficit. It makes you worse at long-term planning because your brain is too busy managing the immediate threat. The researchers called this phenomenon tunneling. Your attention becomes so focused on the scarcity itself that you cannot see the opportunities around you. You become reactive instead of proactive. You are not bad with money. Your brain is running software designed for a different operating system, an operating system built for survival, not for wealth building. Let's move to the second sign, the immediate gratification loop. You get paid, and within days, sometimes hours, the money is gone, not on bills, not on necessities, on stuff, food delivery, impulse purchases, things you do not even remember buying. And you tell yourself, I deserve this. I work hard. I will save next month. But next month comes and the same cycle repeats. Here is what is actually happening. When you grow up broke, you learn that money is temporary. It comes and it goes. You cannot count on it being there tomorrow. So when you have it, you spend it because your subconscious believes that holding onto it is pointless. Researchers call this present bias, the inability to delay gratification, but it is not a character flaw. It is an adaptation. If you grew up in an environment where the future was unpredictable, where your parents' promises of later often meant never, your brain learned to take pleasure when you can get it, because later might not come. The famous marshmallow test, the one that supposedly proves kids with self-control succeed in life, it has been debunked. Researchers at NYU and UC Irvine replicated the study, but this time they controlled for socioeconomic background. And guess what they found? The results disappeared. Kids who failed the test were not lacking willpower. They were from unstable environments where food scarcity was real, where adults made promises they could not keep, where saving for later often meant going without entirely. They had learned through lived experience that adults do not always keep their promises, that good things do not always come to those who wait. So they took the marshmallow now because waiting was a gamble they had lost before. Your spending patterns are the same every time you spend instead of save. You are acting on a survival program that says get what you can while you can, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And until you reprogram that belief, no budget in the world will stick. The third sign is the one nobody wants to talk about: success and guilt. You start making more money, or you get a promotion, or something actually goes well, and instead of celebrating, you feel uncomfortable, like you do not deserve it, like you are betraying someone. Maybe your family, maybe your old friends, maybe your former self. So you sabotage it. You overspend to level back down. You turn down opportunities that feel too big. You make yourself small again because being broke feels like home. Psychologists call this the imposter syndrome. But for people programmed for poverty, it runs deeper. It is not just I don't belong here, it is I am not allowed to be here. There is actual research on this. Studies on class mobility show that people who escape poverty experience what is called survivor's guilt, the same psychological phenomenon seen in soldiers who make it home when their friends did not. You feel guilty for succeeding when others you love are still struggling, and that guilt becomes a psychological anchor pulling you back down. Many of us grew up in environments where success was punished, where doing well in school made you a target, where having something nice meant people asked to borrow it or took it or resented you for it, where your achievements were minimized. You think you're better than us now? So you learn to hide your wins, to downplay your intelligence, to apologize for your success, to make yourself less threatening. And now, even when nobody is watching, even when you are completely alone, you still police yourself. You still shrink, you still sabotage, because the fear of being cut down is embedded in your nervous system. Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. The fourth sign is the safety salary trap. You stay in a job you hate because it is stable. You do not start the business because it is risky. You do not invest because you might lose money. You choose certainty over growth every single time. On the surface, this looks like wisdom, but underneath it is fear, and that fear was trained into you. If you grew up watching your parents struggle with inconsistent income, watching them stress about bills, watching them take jobs they hated just to survive, you learn that safety is the highest value. Risk is the enemy. Your brain built a neural pathway that says predictable suffering is better than uncertain possibility. This is why lottery winners often end up broke again, and why people who escape poverty sometimes run back to it. The discomfort of uncertainty feels more dangerous than the pain of limitation. You would rather have a guaranteed $4,000 a month that slowly kills your soul than chase a possible $10,000 a month that might fail because your nervous system cannot handle the instability. The fifth sign is one of the cruelest spending as self-soothing. You had a bad day, so you order takeout. You feel anxious, so you buy something online. You feel empty, so you go shopping. Money becomes your emotional regulation tool. And every time you feel something uncomfortable, you spend to feel better. This is not frivolous. This is a coping mechanism. When you grow up without resources, you do not learn healthy ways to manage emotions. You do not get therapy. You do not get calm. Parents who model emotional regulation, you get chaos and stress, and nobody teaching you how to process feelings, so you learn to numb. Food, substances, spending anything that creates a temporary dopamine hit to cover the pain. Neuroscientists have found that shopping activates the same reward centers as drugs. For someone with financial trauma, that hit is even stronger because spending money feels like control, like power, like proof that you are not that helpless kid anymore, but the relief is temporary. The void comes back and you need another hit. This is not a lack of discipline. This is untreated emotional pain being managed with the only tool you were given. The sixth sign is the comparison drain. You scroll social media and you see everyone doing better than you, buying houses, taking vacations, living lives that feel impossible, and instead of feeling inspired, you feel crushed, like you are failing, like you will never catch up, so you either give up entirely or you go into debt trying to keep up. Psychologists call this relative deprivation, the feeling of being worse off compared to those around you. But here's the trap. The people you are comparing yourself to are not your real community. They are a curated highlight reel. But your brain does not know that your brain sees it as your peer group. And when everyone in your peer group seems to be winning, you feel like the only one losing. This feeling is even more painful if you grew up poor, because you already spent your childhood feeling behind, watching other kids have things you could not afford, feeling the shame of being less than. Now you are an adult, and the scorekeeper in your head is still running, still measuring, still finding you lacking. So you spend money. You do not have to close the gap to prove you're not that poor kid anymore, but just cannot buy your way out of an emotional wound. The seventh and final sign is the most insidious dream deferral programming. You tell yourself, I will start saving when I make more money. I will invest when I understand it better. I will start that business when the timing is right. Always later, never now. And years pass, and you are still waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. This is not procrastination, this is a defense mechanism. If you grew up being told, we cannot afford that right now, maybe next year, when things get better, you learn that good things are always in the future, never in the present. Your brain built a program that says, someday I will be ready. Someday I will be worthy. Someday I will have enough. But someday is a lie. It is a way to protect yourself from the disappointment of trying and failing. Because if you never start, you never fail. And if you never fail, you never have to face the possibility that you might not be capable, that you might actually be as stuck as you fear. So you defer and defer and defer until the dream dies quietly, and you tell yourself it was never realistic anyway. But here's the truth: these seven signs are not personality flaws. They are not proof that you are broken. They are evidence of psychological programming, and programming can be rewritten. The first step is awareness. You cannot change what you cannot see. Now that you see these patterns, you can start to interrupt them. When you feel the money anxiety paralysis, recognize it as the scarcity program running. Name it, this is my scarcity brain trying to protect me. Then ask, what would I do if I trusted myself? When you feel the immediate gratification loop pulling you, pause. Just for 24 hours. Give yourself a waiting period before you spend. Let the impulse pass. When success guilt shows up, remind yourself, I am allowed to win. My success does not take anything away from anyone else. When the safety salary trap whispers, stay where it is safe, ask yourself, am I actually safe? Or am I just familiar with this suffering? When you use spending as self-soothing, find one replacement behavior, go for a walk, journal, call a friend, interrupt the pattern just once when the comparison drain hits, unfollow accounts that make you feel inadequate, curate your inputs, protect your peace. And when dream deferral programming says not yet, do one small thing today, not the whole dream, just one tiny step. Because action is the antidote to paralysis. This is not about willpower alone. This is about deep compassion. You were programmed by circumstances outside your control, but you are not a prisoner to that old programming anymore. You can update the code, one choice at a time, one awareness at a time, one new pattern at a time. And in 6 months, you will look back and barely recognize the person you were. Because you will have proven to yourself that you are not destined to stay broke. You are just running old code, and you are finally debugging it. Line by line, I will see you in the next one.